Another 2022 VW Taos prototype drive, this time with multiple suspension tunes. VW has us sample suspensions on its small SUV that won't make it to production. Huh? This isn't our first time behind the wheel of a not quite ready for primetime version of the 2022 Volkswagen Taos. Last fall, we sampled the new 1.5-liter turbo engine, and this time we were invited to drive more prototypes with suspension tuning that both was and wasn't close to final. Frankly, at this point we just want to drive the damn production version, but VW seems determined to draw out the introduction like some sort of romantic interlude, minus the candles and Prosecco. We'll play along, though this time we'll skip the long setup on the small SUV's market position, tweener status, and baby Atlas styling because we covered those in our first look. This time round, we were invited to Volkswagen's hot weather proving grounds in Maricopa, Arizona, where 2 front-wheel drive and 2 all-wheel drive examples of the WEY SUV awaited. This exercise was of questionable usefulness. We started out on one of Volkswagen's handling courses, the Fuel Handling Course, which is a narrow, twisty track with tight, off-camber turns designed to make fuel slosh in the wrong direction. It also featured a few sine wave bumps, which we were advised to take below 40 miles per hour lest our Taoses catch some sick air. Good fun, to be sure, but about as close to real-world driving as Volkswagen putting us behind the wheel and dropping the cars out of an airplane. But that's okay because the prototypes we drove weren't quite real-world, either. The 2 front drivers differed slightly but were close to production tune, we were told, while the all-wheel drive prototypes were very different, both from each other and the final product. One was stiffer and more aggressive, the other was notably softer, and we were told the final AWD tuning would be somewhere between the two. The sharp curves of the Fuel Handling Course put the FWD Taoses into a constant state of tire squealing understeer, and the reverse banking of the turns exaggerated the sensation of roll to the point that we were in no position to properly judge body control. We'd hoped for a few mid-corner bumps to potentially highlight the differences between the front driver's torsion beam rear axle and the all-wheel driver's multilink setup, but the pavement was baby butt smooth except for the sine waves, which were like the world's smallest and least thrilling roller coaster. The softer of the 2 all-wheel drivers felt remarkably similar to the front drive cars, though it exhibited better grip that let us carry a bit more speed through turns. Its steering was also slightly less precise. The stiffer riding of the 2 Taos AWD prototypes was tidier in its motions and handling, and quieter, too. Despite seemingly a little less steering feedback, it was the one we preferred. Even though it'll never make production, we can also reliably report that regardless of the number of driven axles or suspension tuning, the engines never starved for fuel. Next up was a slalom and a high-speed lane change exercise, where we noted many of the same behaviors as on the Fuel Handling Course. After that we headed to VW's bumpy road course, an abusive stretch of tarmac that makes Detroit feel like its streets are paved with slabs of marble. The bumps pummeled our backsides, but we noticed the stiffer all-wheel drive version didn't beat us up much worse than did the other 3. This, in turn, made us wonder why Volkswagen couldn't just make all of the Taoses drive like the one we liked best, because there didn't seem to be much of a trade-off in ride quality.